So this week we're in a one-off series called I Have Questions. So this is a series to where we get to do things that is kind of trending in the world. It's a one-off thing. So tonight we're going to be talking about words. Because have you guys ever sat back and noticed how the majority of our lives are actually built around words? And especially after this year, after we had to basically only use words as our only communication because we weren't able to be in person. And so for now, we get to go in the hallways with our friends and talk to each other if you're at school. Or maybe it's listening to your teachers or your classmates talk on Zoom. Or maybe it's even unspoken words, like reading text messages or books or things that are posted on social media. Or maybe it's even just the thoughts in our heads, because those are words too. And so have you ever noticed how much attention words get as well? So since we were kids, I think you all know this phrase, but we were taught the classic line, and we'll have it up here. Everybody, if we can get it, the first slide up here. Ta-da! So can everybody say this with me? Are you ready? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. So raise your hands. Who here has actually heard that? Who has said that to somebody before? Okay, pretty much everybody in this room. So we were told that words don't hurt. But we all know that words hurt. Because I can specifically remember this time in early middle school that I'll never forget. I was hanging out with my sister. We were doing something, I can't remember exactly what we were doing, but I remember in a moment of frustration, my sister turns to me and she goes, "Megan, why do you have to be so selfish and bossy?" And that is just two words that I will never forget, and how I'll never forget how I felt in that moment. I wanted to be caring and kind and loving and helpful when I was growing up, which is why I want to do what I'm doing now. And so being selfish and bossy was the last thing that I wanted to be or be thought of. And for some reason, that moment brought up all sorts of really icky feelings inside of me. I realized that the word selfish and bossy had some type of weird power over me, and it really hurt. And the fact is, as silly as it is, those words have always stuck with me, which is why I can remember it now today. And I couldn't shake them from my identity, and I still struggle with feeling like a lot of the time I can be selfish and bossy. And how can two tiny words have so much power over one person? Because it's just two words. And the truth is, I think we can all tell a story of a time to where words were said, whether it was a joke or in an argument, and they stuck with us. And it shaped the way we see and think about ourselves. And now that may be true that words cannot physically harm you, but they can still hurt a lot and cause a lot of damage. And isn't it true that there's more going on than just the words being spoken? Because when we're in person with each other, we have body language. We have tones, so the tone of voice we're using. We have the dig behind the words if we really want to use it. And there's an intent for a certain reaction that we want to get from a person. And it's never just about the words, and that can be good and it also can be bad. Because we can choose kind words when we're wanting to make somebody feel good about themselves, or where we want them to make them feel like we care about them. Or we can say things that cut other people down in hopes of getting a few laughs. We can say sexist or racist jokes or make degrading comments about someone because we're hoping that we're gonna fit in with certain people that say those types of things. And it's hard because there's also people in our lives a lot of the times that we look up to that will say degrading or hurtful speech, and it makes us think that it's okay for us to use those things. And I think we have all used the excuse before. I know I've used the excuse before of, dude, that was just a joke. You don't have to get so hurt about it. Or I wasn't actually serious about what I said. But in the process, we discover that our words actually shape the way we think and feel about other people. And now what I'm really trying to say is that our words are really powerful. And words have created safe places, and they've hurt a lot of people. They've made and ruined reputations. They've created and destroyed opportunities, and they've started and ended relationships. Words have given people self-worth and belonging, and words have made people feel so alone and so worthless. And so words have the potential to do a lot of good, and words have the potential to do a lot of bad. They have a potential to do a lot of damage. Now, this isn't something that we just deal with today. And now it may be something that is more prevalent because our words are a little bit more powerful because we have all this technology and there's this disconnect between the screen and the person we're talking to. And so sometimes we could be a lot braver with the words we say because we're not actually looking that person in the face. And words have always had the ability to cause harm. And so the scripture we're going to look at today is in the book of James. Now let me warn you, James, when you read his letter, you get the feeling that he just kind of tells it like it is. He does not sugarcoat anything. And in the passage we're looking at, he talks honestly about the power of words. So we're going to be looking at the screen here and reading in the passage of James chapter 3. So it says, when we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large and driven by strong winds, they are steered by very tiny, small rudder wherever the pilot wants to go. And so I hope that we're tracking together here. So what James is basically trying to say is that he's talking about this power of how one small thing can control an entire larger whole of another thing. And so he continues. And he says, in the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And among all of the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire. It is a whole world of wickedness. Corrupting your entire body, it can set your whole life on fire, for it is set on fire by hell itself. And so now, guys, this is why I say that James does not hold back here. I personally think he could have been a little bit gentler with what he said, but we're just working with what we got, and so let's unpack this a little bit. So in verses 5 and 6 that you could see here, James isn't talking about our tongue actually being evil. He's saying that our tongue is powerful, and so in turn, he's saying that our words are powerful, because what makes our words? Our tongue. See? I'm talking with my tongue. Anyways, like a rudder to a ship, words steer the direction of our lives. And so they take us places. Our words take us places. And if we're not careful, our words can take us places that we don't want to go. Now, I know we have all seen how much damage a fire can cause, especially after all of those forest fires that have happened this past year. And I think James uses the analogy of our tongues being fire because even the smallest spark, just one word, has the potential to start a fire so big and so bad that it takes over our entire lives. So with just one word, we have the ability to bring a lot of hurt. But guys, the good news is that James doesn't start there, or doesn't stop there. So James goes on to say this. Later in the verses, he writes, "But the wisdom from heaven is first of all pure. It is also peace-loving, gentle at all times, and willing to yield to others. It is full of mercy and the fruit of good deeds. It shows no favoritism, and it's always sincere. And those who are peacemakers will plant seeds of peace and reap a harvest of righteousness." So friends, think of it this way. I was supposed to have a thing of seeds up here, but imagine that I'm holding a thing of sunflower seeds. If I plant sunflower seeds, I'm going to grow sunflower seeds. And it doesn't matter how badly I want to grow roses, sunflower seeds are going to grow. Because sunflower seeds is what I planted. And so I get that that's a very easy thing to understand. Yes, of course you're going to grow sunflowers if you're planting sunflower seeds. But in the same way, when it comes to our words, we get what we plant. And so what I'm trying to say is we have to pay attention to the power of our words, guys. Because when our words are full of selfishness, they're full of jealousy, talking down to others, or seeing people as less important than us, we're going to plant a whole lot of disorder. When we use racial slurs or jokes, we'll grow hurt and devastation. And y'all, it's easy to say those things, I know, because when you plant a seed, I don't know if you've ever done this before, but when you plant a seed, it takes a whole lot of time before you see any results from that seed. So you could plant a seed of a racist joke or a hurtful comment and walk away from it and not see the results of that for a long time. But if we're interested in a different kind of life, and we want to grow wisdom and grace and mercy and kindness, if we're interested in living lives that are full of those things later down the road, if that's what we want our lives to look like, then we better start planting words that are full of those things now. Because guys, we grow what we plant. If we want to use the power of our words for good, it's not just about taming our tongue, guys. It has to go a lot deeper than that. Because using our words for good comes from seeing others as good first. And so we have to also choose humility and kindness. Because choosing to see others as people who are made in God's image and worthy of respect and honor and value, guys, when we see people this way, when we plant kindness and grow kindness, it shows up in the words we speak about one another. It's a whole mindset. It's not just about choosing what words we speak out of our mouths. If we want to grow something different, then we want to have to plant something different. We need to plant a view of others that is loving and shows others that we are for them. We have to show them that we are for them. We need to pay attention to the power of our words, guys, because it is so powerful. So how do we do this? How do we start paying attention to the power of our words? So first, it starts off by thinking about the person or groups of people that you're most likely to use harsh words with. So whether it's in a joking way or a hurtful way, you want to ask yourself, what do I really think about these people? What is it about them that makes me think it's okay for me to talk to them in that way, in the way that I do? And what can I do to change that and start seeing them in a kind and loving way? And then actually pay attention to your words, because I know I will be talking all day long and then I'll think back to it and be like, what did I actually say back there? Because guys, I want you to take a look at the last 10 texts you sent, the last 10 DMs, or the last 10 words you sent. Ask yourself, was what I said hurtful or was it helpful? Did I plant words that will help me grow into the person that I want to be? If not, what could I have said that would grow kindness and honor instead? Would silence have been a better decision? When you look at your words, what do they communicate about what you're planning and what you're growing? And so think about the tools you actually have access to that will help you guard your words. So I'll start out with a couple of examples. So the first one we could look at is when you get a text message that frustrates you, don't respond right away. Take a few minutes to think through your response. Think about why you got frustrated by that text, and then come up with a response once you've calmed down. And then ask yourself, does this situation need more words? Because guys, sometimes less is more when it comes to our words and what we say. And then buy yourself time to think, because it's common to want to snap back at parents or teachers or other people when we're frustrated. It's easy to let our emotions take over. Give yourself a few seconds to think through what you're actually going to say and what your response is going to be. And then get in the habit of planting encouraging words that builds others up. Think about who you can reach out to tonight to say thank you or let them know how they've impacted your life. Now, friends, the tongue is pretty powerful. But if we want to make a change, then we have to do more than just change our words. We have to change what's inside. We have to change our heart. We have to plant something better. We have to plant a different way of seeing people. And that's when we grow kindness. And so it's important for everybody here. It's a principle that's true whether you're a follower of Jesus or not. You grow what you plant. So pay attention to the power of your words and what you're planting. Guys, Jesus tells us to love value, and respect others. And the first place to start doing that is with our words. Because just imagine if you decided to pay attention to the power of your words. Imagine if you started caring more about what you planted with your words. Imagine if your words were focused on growing the life and relationships that you wanted. Imagine if you used your words differently than most of your peers, and people could trust you and turn to you to speak into their lives and speak truth into their lives. And imagine if your words were used by God to bring hope and healing to others, because you used them to plant kindness. Now, guys, let's pray together. God, thank you for planting kindness into our own lives. Thank you for giving us examples of what it looks like to be planting kindness. God, I ask that these students here have good examples in their lives of people that are planting a whole lot of good into them by the words that they say to them. I ask that they look to those role models and they start replicating what that looks like, what it looks like for them to say good and kind things and to look at others as kind and equal and worthy of their love and kindness. God, I ask that when they mess up and they start to plant words that can cause disorder or disruption, that you be there with them and you help them turn the other way. You help them turn their heart to be able to start seeing others and loving others in the way that you'd want them to, and to start planting a whole lot of good and kind words, because God, we want to be a whole forest of kind and beautiful things, because these are kind and beautiful people. And I want you to be in their small groups tonight as they talk about that, and you remind them of that. In your name I pray, amen.